I want to look at one part of the budget in particular, because when it comes to transport, this budget is a gambler's budget. The government's cards are now on the table and show that we don't have a Minister of Transport. We have a Minister for Motorways, a Minister for Trucking, and a Minister for Corporate Welfare. The Key-led government is betting billions on uneconomic motorways that lock us into a car and oil-dependent future. Like a gambling addict, this government fools itself into thinking it doesn't have a problem. Just one more win, then I can finally quit. Just one more motorway, then we can relieve congestion and finally stop building them. But one motorway leads to another, then another, until you're building motorways to solve the problems caused by the other motorways. This budget announces $714 million on new state highway construction, on top of the billions already announced for the roads of national significance. This massive amount gambles away our national wealth in some sort of 1950s fantasy, who the major beneficiaries will be the trucking lobby. Like a gambling addict, most of the money goes directly into feeding the addiction. From government funds, for every dollar spent on sustainable modes of transport, like buses, trains, walking and cycling, National will spend $7 on roads. Why would the government place all of our bets on roads as a measure to reduce congestion when all the local and international experience shows it just does not work? Mr. Speaker, Stephen Joyce's big gamble is simple economic mismanagement. The recent OECD report referenced in the National Infrastructure Plan showed there is no evidence of a positive relationship in New Zealand between motorways and macroeconomic growth, but a strong positive link between growth and investment in rail. Research from the United States shows that the economic stimulus spending of public transport created twice as many jobs per dollar as spent on motorways. To look at but one example, the government is planning to pour $1.7 billion of our national wealth on the Puhoi to Wellsford Holiday Highway. This road of national party significance has a benefit-cost ratio of only 0.8, which means they're not even staking on returning an economic return from it. Coupled with the possible closure of the main trunk rail line north of Auckland, which will see more trucks on Northlands Road than State Highway 1, the agenda is clear. This is a road of trucking significance. Like gamblers borrowing from friends with hollow promises of payback, he's even managed to convince Finance Minister Bill English to give him massive amounts of cash for his politically based mega monuments. This budget isn't allocating resources according to a rigorous assessment of the economic benefits, but rather according to a misguided belief that building expensive infrastructure for high-carbon, land-hungry, job-poor imported cars and trucks is somehow good for the economy. As with many addicts, oft it's those living closest who get hurt, like the 205 Waterview residents who will now have their homes bowled and paved for State Highway 16, all the job opportunities we've missed out in general, or at Woburn and Hillside in particular, or the $547 million we're spending in Auckland on health costs from the extra 1 billion kilometres travelled by car in Auckland over the last 5 years. This budget invests $250 million for Kiwi Rail's turnaround plan, which is a start redressing the 15 years of infrastructure neglect, but coupled with likely line closures, increased fares for public transport users and local bodies, this budget is still a budget for and by the roading lobby at the expense of local communities and the resilience of our transport network. Mr. Speaker, what will the legacy of this budget be for transport issues? Mr. Joyce's big bet locks us into a model of car dependence that makes our roads less safe, our communities less walkable, and reduces choices for people to get around. Our cities under this budget will continue to sprawl outwards with more suburban big boxes, and unlike Europeans, Kiwis will keep paying more of our incomes on commuting and spend more of our days stuck behind cars and stuck on our congested motorways. New Zealand will keep borrowing $250 million a week to pay the bills on our oil imports, which last year were $5.7 billion, a significant cause of our current account deficit. Mr. Speaker, like betting against the casino, this budget takes a punt that the prices for oil will stay stable and affordable, but on both counts, the odds are stacked against us. Like gambling to pay off the gambling debts, it's high time we stop using the same ideas that got us into this mess to get us out. The first step to health is acknowledging there is a problem, a motorway addiction. The next is seeking help. Luckily, the Greens are there for the government with real options and new solutions. The Greens are not anti-car or anti-roads, we're pro-transport choice. The Greens believe in sustainable, smart transport investments that balance roads with sustainable transport options to deliver jobs, safety and livable towns and cities. The Minister could read the Auckland Regional Council's Regional Land Transport Strategy for some inspiration for next year's budget. Mr. Speaker, the biggest loss of this budget is the opportunity cost. Mr. Joyce could have surprised us all with his leadership and vision and earned for himself a place in history as the Minister for Transport who started Auckland's CBD rail loop, the single most effective thing he could do to get Auckland moving. He could have announced Wellington's urban light rail system from the funds scrapped from Transmission Gully. And most importantly, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Joyce could have taken the opportunity to announce a fundamental overhaul of our transport planning in New Zealand that balanced funding between roads and other transport modes. This budget could have announced the shift to corridors of national significance. He, for around $100 million, could have linked main trunk railway line with Northport near Whangarei and saved more than $1 billion and saved trucks off our congested roads. We've heard this government loudly trumpet they're spending more than Julius Vogel on roads. However, Vogel looked to the future in his investment decisions. We could be too, investing in integrated transport options, fast modern public transport, bus rapid transport, light rail, underground rail in our biggest city, and walking, cycling and telecommuting and flexible working hour solutions. This government, however, looks to the 1950s, as if Vogel would be borrowing to build bullock tracks. Mr. Speaker, I look forward to the day we have a minister who is a transport choice champion, who has an inspiring vision for how livable our towns and cities could be and is prepared to lead. I welcome the chance to be on the record today because it provides a stark contrast to the deficit of vision espoused in this budget. Kia ora.
Honourable Paula